Routine, a journey in space. You wake up randomly, you don't know what's going on. This is definitely one of those games where a lot of the story is told through a lot of context clues. Honestly, it reminds me of what sort of a modern day Amnesia. And honestly, I think this game needs a lot more recognition. Hello everybody. I am your host for today's video. My name is Senjo, the 47th of his kind. I want to start a new series on my channel where I basically review games, although I am a little apprehensive to call these reviews. These are mostly just going to be very short snippets of me review. Sorry, I'm lacking in vocabulary for this, but I kind of go over a game and I talk about how it made me feel without giving spoilers as much as possible. And in essence, I am reviewing the game, giving my thoughts and opinions, and maybe at the end you'll be encouraged to play yourself, or if I happen to make a... Hello, Future Senjo here. I don't know why I made it so complicated. These are reviews. I made literally like a freaking inside the NBA type desk, and it says Senjo reviews. These are reviews, just casual style, very relaxed. Sometimes I have a bad habit of making things too complicated. If you go on a bad game, then maybe you won't be encouraged. But either way, this is sort of casually reviewing a game. And the game of today's topic is Routine. Routine was, in my opinion, I think honestly, it's a horror game that should be on the level of Amnesia. At least in terms of popularity, and I'm talking about like the Dark Descent Amnesia. I've never played that game, by the way, so... But what I mean is the kind of presence that Amnesia has had and the popularity level. Honestly, Routine to me is there. It really was a fantastic game. Its atmosphere was really... As somebody who doesn't really like to play horror games, what that means is I play horror games for the entertainment purpose. They're not really... I'll be honest, right? I'm just going to be very straightforward and very transparent. I play the horror games because I know people like to watch people get scared. And I am somebody who is, no joke, a pretty scared individual when it comes to horror anything. Oh! Oh, shoot. Oh! I have a very infamous story that I tell on my stream a lot where I talk about me going to go see Conjuring 2 at a movie theater, and when the jump scares would happen, I jumped out of my movie seat, and we just happened to be sitting sort of on the lower end so people would see me from above, and I think I heard people chuckle at me or giggle or whatever. And honestly, when you're actually scared, you just don't care. Like that kind of thing registered to me after leaving, but in that moment, like, I'm just genuinely scared, right? So for me, horror games are definitely an entertainment outlet. But that being said, that doesn't mean they can't be fun, and that doesn't mean I can't appreciate like how stuffy, like the way I want to call it is like almost like how it feels when you're in like a humid environment. It's very stuffy and oppressive, and Routine kind of sets that tone almost immediately because you don't really get a lot of information. Definitely uses that classic trope of like, what the heck is going on here? You're really just thrown in immediately. I'm only gonna go over the first hour of gameplay, which is pretty spoiler free because it just so happens that this game is a very non-linear storytelling game, meaning a lot of the game's story you have to learn from audio logs. They have little movies, but it's mostly audio logs and various notes scattered around. There's something down there. What the hell is that noise?
Some shit. Some on top, maybe. Wait. 85% Hugo.
85% what? Radiation? So it's very Dark Souls-y in its storytelling, because Dark Souls kind of does... That's how I like to coin the term, because Dark Souls did a lot of its storytelling through weapon descriptions, item pickups, items in certain areas on a certain dead body, and it's, you're supposed to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together on your own. And Routine also does that, which can be a good thing and a negative. I personally like when games do that because I think any good story allows the person watching or experiencing the story to sort of fill in the blanks themselves. I think it just makes the overall experience more engaging. It's not that I can't appreciate a story though that just has everything very written, very set in stone, and this is the reason this happened type equation. This plus this equals this. But I just kind of like things to be a little bit more loose in my video games in general when it comes to their stories. So I really did appreciate Routine for that. And, of course, it's a horror game first and foremost. So it had just, like I mentioned earlier, the atmosphere was just very stuffy, very oppressive because it's a very quiet game. It takes place in space. They did like the space environment really well. When I was doing my playthrough, I actually made a comment about how like the space station wasn't necessarily it lacked things that you would normally expect in the environment that it was in. So like it's a very it takes place on a space station and it's dirty because this is taking place after whatever had happened to everyone else. You're waking up after everyone's already essentially gone or dead, or you have to fill in the pieces yourself. And there's like sort of like muck everywhere, but it's sort of weird to think about, right? Because there's no noise either. There's no ants. There's no bugs. There's no roaches. But yet it's still like kind of a dirty environment. So it's almost like a subconscious thing that subverts your expectations. Because normally you play a horror game and it's sort of like a dingy. A good example is like Outlast. Outlast, you're in this asylum. There'll probably be like some bugs. There's also a lot more like human presence in Outlast, so that's a little bit different, of course. But like there's bugs, there's ants, there's more like white noise. And because Routine takes place in space, yet the environment, yet what you're seeing is something else, it really adds to that tension, I feel like, because there is no bugs, but it's still dirty. And it's just so good, in my opinion. That's one of the things that like really hammered it home for me with Routine, is that just the environment, the atmosphere. It really did a good job of like putting you in that spot of just like dread. I feel like I think my biggest issue with Routine is it would be an issue for most people playing, but honestly for myself, I can put two and two together. This game kind of relies on you to use a lot of common sense and have good memory, which is not exactly commonplace in games today. Yellow paint example, or like there's no quest arrow, for example, right? Routine doesn't tell you where to go. There's a very limited HUD. In fact, there's no HUD at all, actually. There is no HUD at all. You only have certain locations where the game starts to actually feel like a video game, and those are these save locations where you actually, it literally says click save game on it, or it lets you look at your tasks and objectives. So that's the only time it really feels video gamey. The game tells you where to go, but you actually have to read, which I know how modern gaming works, right? Modern gaming, the attention span of a lot of people is a lot lower. And honestly, this might be one of the, dare I say it, it might be one of the only reasons this game is not so popular, is because the game really doesn't tell you where to go. You have to figure it out. You have to listen to the audio logs. You have to read the notes. Failing that, you hopefully will go to your save location, and then you look at tasks, and then hopefully you know where to go to engineering, or you have to go to a mall. You go to a mall at some point, and then it's like an electronics shop. Hopefully you know how to follow the signs and get to the electronic shop, kind of thing. This game tries its best to be very immersive, and some might say to a fault. So it is what it is, right? But yeah, ultimately that was my experience with Routine. I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of like little mini review over recap of my own playthrough, and maybe I encourage you to try it yourself. This is something I want to do more. I want to kind of test the waters with this style of video, and I mean, if these videos do well, then I'll make more. But if not, then maybe I'll probably still make like a few of these for games that I really like. But maybe not every game. But hey, if you enjoyed, please be sure to let me know in the comments or through the likes or whatever. And yeah, peace out, guys. Have a good rest of your guys' day.